All right, today we're unpacking a story that hits close to home for so many people. It's about the desperate need for childcare, a huge chunk of public money that was supposed to be the solution, and a brand new facility that, well, it never even opened its doors. We're going to follow the money, dig into the paper trail, and see what the public records tell us about what really happened. So, it all kicks off with a problem that parents in Kitsap County know all too well. I mean, this quote from the Kitsap Sun really says it all, doesn't it? Families are being forced into these crazy, long, stressful commutes, all because there's just not enough local childcare. It's a real crisis and one that community leaders were desperate to solve.
And here was the big solution. Nearly $500,000. We're talking about a state grant, public money, your money, given to a local provider called TREETOP Village. And the promise? To expand and finally ease that crushing burden on local families.
The plan was honestly a dream come true for the community. The new center in Port Orchard was supposed to be a total game changer. We're talking 16 classrooms, a play cafe, space for over 300 kids. You can just imagine. For parents, this felt like the light at the end of a very long tunnel.
But here's the thing. This project didn't just appear out of nowhere. To really get why it all fell apart, you have to look deeper. We need to dive into the public records of its founders, Katie and Patrick Hudkins, and let's call it a complex web of businesses they were juggling at the same time.
So, let's take a look. Because the state's corporate filings, they paint a really interesting picture. It's a picture of entrepreneurs with their hands in a lot of different pots, spread out across different towns and even different industries. For starters, public records show a flurry of activity. You've got a restaurant registered over in Port Orchard,
and then there's a landscaping company based out of Bremerton, and an investment firm in Owalla.
And would you believe it, even a bar way out in Ocean Shores. I mean, to say they were busy seems like an understatement.
But when you actually organize these businesses and look at them all together, a pretty troubling pattern starts to emerge. See, right alongside their active companies, you have this list of others that are either delinquent in their filings or have been administratively dissolved by the state. And look at this. Their main childcare business, TREETOP Village Kids Inc., is listed as delinquent. This isn't just a one-off clerical error. It really points to a history of corporate instability. And this inconsistency, it gets even clearer when you zoom in on their construction company. I mean, wow. The state corporation filings show this just chaotic timeline. It's formed, it's dissolved, it's brought back, it's dissolved again by the state, only to be reinstated just 6 days later. Look, this is not how typical businesses operate. It's a huge red flag.
And it turns out the pattern of instability we see in their business filings, it seems to pop up in their personal and legal histories too.
If we look at the public records for Katie Hudkins, we see a history of financial trouble. There's a notice of foreclosure on her property way back in 2008 and a tax lien filed against her in King County.
And as for her partner, Patrick McDonald, well, court records showed that since 2008, he's been named in at least 10 separate civil court cases, and that's just in King County alone.
And listen, these aren't just minor disagreements. The cases cover everything from business disputes and foreclosures to personal injury claims and unlawful detainer actions, which, often means evictions. It's this recurring cycle of serious legal conflict that really makes you start to question how they conduct business. So with all this context, this background of business turmoil and legal battles, what was actually going on inside their main operation, the TREETOP Village Daycare in Bremerton? Well, what we find here is this really jarring contradiction between the official story and what parents were actually experiencing. On paper, everything looked absolutely perfect. According to a 2022 state monitoring report, the facility just sailed through its inspection. Every box was checked, from supervision to safety. Officially, you'd think it was a model daycare. But then you go online, and parents and former staff members are telling a completely different story. This one-star review is just one of many that allege really serious problems, including claims that kids weren't being properly fed or even watched. The difference is, it's just stark. The official record shows a safe, compliant daycare. But the reviews from parents and staff, they describe an environment that they found to be dangerous. We're talking allegations of malnourishment, daily injuries that went undocumented, using untrained maintenance staff to watch children, a moldy kitchen, and even broken lights in the infant room. It's like two different realities. And that brings us right back to where we started, back to that promised Port Orchard facility, the community's big hope.
and that nearly $500,000 of public money that was supposed to make it all happen.
And then, just like that, the company announced the project was off. It was canceled. The reason they gave publicly was that the building they leased was unsafe, that it had major structural and heating problems that made it totally unsuitable for a daycare.
So what happened next? Well, the project fell apart, leaving the community right back where it started. And the owners? They immediately turned around and filed a lawsuit against the landlord. Now, given the history of legal disputes we just walked through, this move, it fits right into a very familiar pattern, doesn't it? And as for that $450,000 in public grant money, its final location remains a mystery.
You know, when you lay out all the evidence from these public records, the dissolved companies, the financial troubles, the constant lawsuits, and the two totally different stories about their existing daycare, it leaves us with some really serious questions.
This whole story really forces us to ask a tough question. When a state agency hands over hundreds of thousands of dollars for something as vital as childcare, what is their responsibility to actually vet the people they're giving it to? Especially when a long history of business instability and legal drama is all right there in the public record. So the question we're left with is, who in the end is protecting the public's trust and their money?